Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Just Listen to Yourself podcast with Kira Davis. I am your host, Kira Davis, of course. And this is the podcast where I take hot topics of the day and I take their talking points, the most popular talking points related to those topics, and I draw them out to their logical conclusion. Because I believe that we don't really stop and listen to ourselves enough. And sometimes when we take our opinions and our thoughts about an issue and we actually take the time to dig into them and draw them out to their logical conclusion, sometimes our minds change. Sometimes we're not saying the things that we think we're saying, or sometimes we become more confident in what we believe. So this is a thought experiment. It's an exercise in persuasion. And I have to thank everybody who's been with me on this journey so far. I am so heartened by the month-to-month responses to this podcast. It's just been incredible. And in fact, I was at a rally the other day. We've got this horrible AB5 legislation here in California that has basically killed the gig economy overnight. So we're fighting it, and we're fighting hard because there's a national bill right now. There's a bill in Congress. So we don't want it to spill out from our borders into the rest of the United States, and we're fighting to get it repealed. So I was at a rally in LA. And by the way, if you want to know more about that, you can go back and listen to one of last week's episodes, which was about, does the government have the right to, should the government kill the gig economy? Should the government end the gig economy? So go back and listen to that. But I was at this rally and 2 or 3 people approached me to say, because I spoke, they approached me to say, I found your podcast through a friend, mostly it's through a friend, and I love it. And I've gone back and listened to every episode, and you've really made me think. I mean, what an honor. What an honor. So thank you so much to everyone who listens, and thank you for sharing. Please share this podcast with your friends, because I really try to, I don't hide who I am as a person and how I think, but what I want is to have a larger conversation with people who aren't like me. So I really try to be balanced. I don't want to lecture people, but I do want to spark a conversation. And I always look at this as a conversation, even though it's very one-sided, because I'm the one with the microphone and you're the one with the device that's listening. But my husband has come in sometimes when I'm podcasting, and later on he'll say, who are you talking to? Who are you podcasting with? And I'll be like, no, I'm by myself. And he'll be like, well, it sounds like you were totally talking to somebody. But that's how I feel. I feel like I'm talking to you guys. I feel like we're in the same room. And so that's part of my goal, is to have a conversation. So I want you guys to feel free to share this podcast and not worry about, oh, is my friend going to think that I'm this ideology or I'm that ideology? I don't want my friend to think I'm a horrible person because I'm a conservative or because I'm a liberal. I don't want that. I want you to feel good about sharing this podcast with people, whatever their political persuasion, because all I'm doing is giving you my ideas of persuasion and my thoughts. But I'm not saying that you don't have any valuable opinions and thoughts on the issue. I'm merely suggesting that there are other ways to look at things, and that's it. And we can still go sit down and have a beer at the end of the day, and it'll be all good. So thank you to everyone who's shared in this journey so far. We've got many more topics to cover. And if you have a suggestion for a topic, something you want to hear me talk about, go ahead and hit me up on Twitter at realkiradavis, Kira, or you can send me an email at kiradavis422, kiradavis422, the numbers, at gmail.com. And I've already had several emails from people that have sparked subjects on this show. So feel free. I do read them, and sometimes I do respond. Today, we're talking about student loans. Should America forgive all student debt? This is a subject that's on the forefront of the news these days because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are 2 candidates who have included forgiving student loan debt as part of their platform. And it's a pretty big part of their platforms. And Elizabeth Warren was confronted by a father the other day on a campaign stop who asked if, under her plan, he would be reimbursed for the loans he had already paid off for his daughter. And her answer was no. And she got into a little bit of a publicity kerfuffle over that. But I thought, well, this is a good topic to talk about. We should dig into this because he had a decent question, and honestly, she didn't have a good answer for it. No might be the ultimate answer for her. It could be the answer for sure. But to just look somebody in the face and say no, and to not really have any rationality to back it up, I think it exposes some holes in this case. So in case you haven't guessed, I do not believe that student debt should be erased by our government. I do not believe that that is a good plan. I don't think it's good for students. I don't think it's good for the cost of college, and I don't think it's good for American prosperity. So I'm going to give you some of my reasons why I think this is a bad idea based on some of the talking points that I hear and that I imagine a lot of you out there might have. So let's just start at the start. You know how I like to do. Start at the start. One of the first things people always say about college is too expensive. College costs too much money. People say that all the time. College is too expensive. But no one ever asks why college is so expensive. I mean, you've probably said it to yourself many times in your life. Man, college costs so much money. When's the last time you asked why it costs so much money? And maybe you have asked why, but have you gone to check up on why? Have you done a Google search? Have you asked how some of these colleges spend their money, where they get their money, how much money is coming through? The cost of college has far outpaced the cost of living in general society. That means that it has grown exponentially faster than the regular cost of living. So even accounting for inflation, the cost of colleges, I apologize that I did not look up this percentage before I started this podcast. Maybe I'll look it up for the show notes. But I know that it's a huge, it's something like 136% or something that it's outpaced living. I could be wrong, but it has greatly outpaced the cost of living in our society. Why? Well, I think it's a good question to ask, or a good place to start when asking why college is so expensive is how much money is going through college in the first place. I don't think people imagine that colleges are making as much money as they are. So I started with the top echelon of college, which is Harvard University. And it's pricey, as you can imagine, but there's a reason, right, that it costs so much. Harvard is one of the best schools in the world. If you get an education at Harvard, it opens a lot of doors for you. So they're selling a product that is very valuable. So already you're like, okay, well, that's fair that it's going to cost a little more than the average school. Fair enough. Well, Harvard has an endowment fund. Every college has an endowment fund. An endowment fund is a permanent fund that's kept in trust. So it means that it never goes away. It's forever. And you can never withdraw that money, but you live off the interest of it. So every year, the investors for the fund make their investments with the money in there. And then in theory, those investments pay off plus the interest. And that goes back to the school or the charity or the organization. So Harvard has the largest endowment fund in the United States for any university at $40 billion. $40 billion. That means they're at about close to $2 billion in revenue from that a year. So that's from interest and from investments. That's a lot of money. Now, I know a lot of you are like, well, 2 billion isn't really that much, but this is how desensitized we are to spending these days. We never actually take a look at what these numbers mean. Our government has debts in the trillions, and that's almost unimaginable. So when you see the number billion, you think, well, there's a few billionaires in the world, and a billion's not that much these days. But I implore you to remember that 1 billion has 9 zeros on it. That's more money than you can imagine sifting through. So, put that aside. $1 billion is a hell of a lot of money. It really is. And Harvard gets 2 almost every year from this endowment fund, not to mention all of the donations from alumni and incoming parents who want to, grease the wheels a little bit for their kids. I think last year they recorded about $500 million in donation. Well, Kira, still, Harvard is an expensive school to run. It's probably on premium property by this time in 2020. They offer a lot of elite programs, and the opportunities you get from being at Harvard, you can't get anywhere else. And they have the top professors and the top sports teams and the top equipment, the top of everything. So it's obviously going to cost a lot. Okay. I mean, that's fair. But like, how much? Do you know what I mean? How much does it cost to run Harvard's campus a year? Do you know? You should look to see. I did a little bit more math. I looked to see how many students there were at Harvard. There are 22,000 students across the Harvard family. Then I looked to see how much the tuition was at Harvard. It's $51,000 a year listed on their website. A little more than that, but for the sake of math, we'll leave it at 51,000. Well, I thought, okay, well, how much are they bringing in tuition? 51,000 times 22,000 is $1,122,000,000. So now we're up to over $3 billion a year just coming in. That has nothing to do with the products they sell. You know, the gear, all the sweatshirts, anything that's branded with the Harvard name is copyright. That's money in their pocket. So, there's just so many things that they make money from. All of the games that are played. You have to buy tickets to the games. You have to buy tickets to see the shows. There are just so many ways that they're building and getting income. That's a lot of money coming through the system. Now, I hear what you're saying. Well, Kira, $51,000 is a lot of money, but those kids, probably most of them aren't paying the full $51,000. Probably most of them have some kind of scholarships, and then they've got loans. And so really what they're paying is like $25,000, probably half that. Okay, that's fair. But I just gave you a number, $1,122,000,000. Even if you halved that, that's still a lot of money coming in for tuition. Not to mention that this is the other thing. This is here, we're getting into the nitty gritty here. Why is that number $51,000? If Harvard knows that basically what's going to happen is half the kids are going to get loans, half the kids are going to get scholarships or some kind of grants, and most of the kids are only going to be able to pay $20,000 at most out of their own pocket, then why do they make it that high in the first place? If they know they know almost everybody is actually going to only be paying half that, why does Harvard cost $51,000? Ask yourself, are you seeing the answer? Is it coming to you right now? It's good business. Anybody trying to sell a product does that. You list the product at a higher value than it is. And if it's a product that people can negotiate for, then you list it high and people come in low, or it seems low. And so when they come in low, then you can go lower without losing your profit. Did I explain that well? I'm not an economics professor, guys. I'm just a talker. And if you want to know more, if you're curious about economics, a great book to start with is Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. It is not a beach read, but it will teach you some things. It'll probably it'll probably be a paradigm shift for you. I know it was for me. It changed a lot about how you think of the economy, but it's got some good, just nuts and bolts about how the economy works. But right? So why is Harvard listing their price at $51,000 when really in reality, it probably costs about $22,000? And they know that's what most people can afford. Do you know why? Because they know they can get $51,000. That's why. Because they know that hardly anyone can afford $51,000 a year, at least. I don't even think that includes room and board if you want to stay on campus or whatever your books are. The expenses, that it's not just tuition. They go up and up and up. But Harvard knows that the average student's probably only going to pay $22,000 to $25,000 a year for college out of their own pocket, so to speak, using air quotes here. So they charge a $51,000 because they know they can. And then the people who don't qualify for loans because they make too much money or whatever, they're from another country or something. The people that can pay that $51,000 will pay that $51,000. And also, every time the government says we're increasing money for student loans, we're increasing money for Pell Grants, we're increasing money for state scholarships, the school raises their costs because it's more free money coming in. Do you see how this works? The costs go up when the free goes up. Because then Harvard knows, oh, okay, great. Now this year students are going to have access to $27,000 in student loans and aid and government aid. So we can raise the price to $55,000 because we've determined that the average student can actually manage to muster up $22,000 to $25,000 a year. Do you see? It's math. It's numbers. All the numbers push each other. We can't live in this world. Economics doesn't respond to your ideals. Numbers don't respond to your feelings. We live in a society where money and cash drive the economy. And so it's just physics, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Every time we pour more money into the student debt system, the cost of school goes up. And that's not my opinion. That is a fact. So the next time you're saying, you know what, it's not fair that college costs so much and it shouldn't cost so much to reach for a dream, and the dream is too far out of reach for a lot of these kids. You're right. But why? It's not my fault that college costs so much. And technically, it's not your government's fault. It's not DC's fault. I mean, they're involved in the process. So, but technically, it's not the government that's kind of being mean, the evil wizard behind the curtain, and they're twisting the buttons like, oh, we want to make college cost more for everyone because we hate poor people and minorities. That's not what's happening. It's the colleges that are raising their prices. It's their fault that college costs so much. So the next time you want to say, well, college costs too much and therefore we have to erase student debts, before you carry that thought on, ask yourself why it costs so much. And then whatever college you're looking at, go and find out how they spend their money. You'd be surprised. Here in California, the UC system has been under federal audit, state and federal audit for a couple of years. And the UCLA chancellor, who is Janet, what's her face? She used to work for Obama. Can't remember her last name now. It's slipping my mind. You know what? Yelnick. Anyways, come to find out, she hid something like $300 million during the audit. $300 million that the school of cash that the school had access to. She hid it away so that hoping the audit wouldn't find it. They have so much money running through those schools. Where's it all going? What's it all going for? So yes, college is expensive, but ask yourself why next time. Okay. And what happens when the cost of something, when something is free, right? The value is lowered. And then the provider can respond accordingly. Oh, this education costs $55,000. But you know what? We'll come in at 25. You can find some funding. Yeah, we'll come in at 25 for you. Next year's kid comes and says, "Hey, this is great. I've got $27,000 this year. So I'm gonna, chip away at that tuition. Oh, cost went up. It's $57,000 this year." You see what I mean? All this negotiating drives the cost of college up. Okay. Education is a right. This is what a lot of people say. Education is a right. Other countries like Canada, where I was born, Australia, people love using the Scandinavian countries as examples of socialist paradises, but colleges, university there is free. Because education is a right. And so you shouldn't have to pay for a right. I'll humbly disagree. Education is not a right. It is a privilege. Education actually isn't a specific right that is enumerated in our Constitution, but a lot of people will extract that idea from the text of the Constitution when it says, the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness, for a lot of people, that covers a lot of stuff. The pursuit of happiness, pursuit is chasing, right? Not being followed. So happiness doesn't follow you by the government, releasing happiness into the wild. Happiness, go chase after that person. No, you are pursuing happiness. That denotes something that you have to do. So happiness is not given to you. Happiness is the thing you pursue. So the pursuit of happiness isn't people just showering you with all of your needs to make you happy. That's not what it is. But some people interpret the Constitution like that, and they do that for education. But education is not a right. Education is a privilege. We just spent 20 minutes or so talking about why college costs so much. And I broke down some of the basic numbers for you. And I said it's business. It's sales. They're selling a product, this elite education, and you're buying it. They come in high, then you come in lower, and then they drop down. But really, it hasn't cost them much more to drop down to meet your price. They just list it high so the people that can pay that much will. But they know that the actual cost of the education is probably about half that. That's business. You do it with your cars. When you negotiate for cars, you do it when you buy your homes. That's business. Well, Kira, education is a commodity. BS. It sure is a commodity. If it wasn't a commodity, we wouldn't be talking about how much money it costs in the first place. You wouldn't be complaining that it costs so much that you need to take out loans to go there. Absolutely. Why do we educate people anyway? Why do we have, quote, free? I use air quotes because nothing is free. Nothing is free, everybody. Somebody pays for it. But anyway, why do you think we have free public education up to grade 12? That was what the Canadian coming out of me. 12th grade. Up to the 12th grade. Why do you think so? Because we want our kids to be educated enough to go out into the world when they leave school, to be able to get a decent job, to have enough education to pursue some kind of comfortable lifestyle, or at least self-sustaining lifestyle. And then they become taxpayers and they pay into the tax base, and the tax base supports all of the other things we need and want from our government. So we're investing in our future by investing in education now, right? That's the very definition of a commodity. It's worth something. I don't know why people want to make everything free. Free denotes a loss of value. If you've ever worked in sales or worked around sales, you'll know a lot of salespeople don't like to use the word free. They'll say, oh, this is at low cost to you. No cost to you. No cost is the term they use for free, because free denotes a lack of value. It denotes a cheapness, because anything that is worth having is costly. That is nature. That is physics. That is an undeniable law of the universe. Anything worth having is costly. I've used that theme over and over again on this podcast. You can go back and listen to my podcast about tolerance. And I talk about what tolerance means and what it means to cultivate peace between divisive people. And I talk about how tolerance costs you. Like, it costs you some pride. It costs you some feelings. It costs you some satisfaction that you may have had from retribution. It costs you something. But the reason it costs you is because it's worth having. The peace that it brings is worth having. To love someone costs you. You're taking a big risk when you love someone. You could and probably will at some point lose that person that you love. None of us gets out of this life alive. So you could have your heart broken. That person could hurt you. The person could cheat on you. Think of all the ways your kids, you have a kid. I remember that was one of the first things I thought when I had my son. I thought about all the ways this kid could break my heart. But that's the price of love. That's the cost of love. Is it love if it doesn't cost you anything? If you don't have to take that risk? The risk, the cost adds the value. I don't need to beat this dead horse. You get it. You guys are smart. When we make college free, we devalue it. And that is what we're seeing happening right now, isn't it? All these kids, these millennials particularly, have come out of college after 10 years of grad degrees and post grads, and they come out and they're like, my college degree won't even get me a job in the mailroom at Goldman Sachs. And now I need 2 graduate degrees to get a job in the mailroom at Goldman Sachs. That's because The value of the college degree has been diluted by making it so low, free, by making it free basically for so many people, because there are a lot of people in this country who go to college for free. Don't begrudge you. I hope my son goes to college for free. I'm just laying this out. What happens is it devalues it. And the more people you put in the system, then the less value that has. A college degree used to be very valuable because not so many people had it. And it really was a sign of how far you were willing to go to be educated in the subject that you wanted to pursue. Now, the valuable degree or the valuable pursuit is like electrician, plumber. Like the trades have become very lucrative businesses because there's a demand for it. The college pool has been diluted and manual labor now has a high demand because fewer people are doing that. So the more people we throw into the college system on a free basis, on the basis of it being free, the more the value of the product gets diluted. This brings me to another point. I was going to do this point later, but since I got here now. Kira, everyone should be able to go to college. Everyone should be able to go to college. Nope, I don't believe that. Hear me out. I don't believe that. I don't believe college is for everybody. And we've gotten to this place in society where it's actually offensive to say that, which I find ridiculous. But if somebody says not everybody is cut out for college, what some people hear is, oh, you're not smart enough. Are you saying my son's not smart enough? Are you saying this, that? No, I'm not saying this or that. I'm saying not everybody's cut out for college. Not everybody's cut out for the suburbs. Not everybody is cut out for New York City. Not everybody is cut out for those, leggings that you're wearing when you really should be like covered up. You know what I mean? Like, we're not all suited for every lifestyle. And this idea that every kid is supposed to go to college, first of all, we could do a whole nother episode on what it does to the psyche of a kid when parents demand something of them that they simply are not able to deliver. I live in Southern California, so I have a therapist. I've had a therapist for a while, though, because I deal with chronic depression. Maybe I'll share more of my story on this show. It's not a secret. I don't feel ashamed of it. It's nothing weird. And I've been able to really control and conquer it over the last few years with a good regimen of therapy and healthy decisions. That being said, when I need to, I go see the therapist. I don't see him every week or every day, but sometimes I pop in if I'm having an issue. So, and we chat. He's actually I love my therapist. He's actually a fan of my writing. So when I came in, it was sort of a funny meeting. He was like, "Oh, you're that Kira Davis? I read you all the time." So one day we were talking about college. I was talking about sending my son off to college, and he said, I would say about 70% of my business in the fall is counseling families whose kids have bailed out of college and come home. And the parents are so disappointed because they feel like it's an indictment of their parenting. But really the main work we have to do is to convince these parents that your kid is not dumb and you have not failed. You've just chosen a path that they didn't belong in. And when you find the right path for them, they're going to find success. They're going to be successful. Not everyone is meant for college. What happens is you send kids who aren't ready for college, who don't belong there, who don't need that type of environment to succeed. And then they fail, and then they think they're the failure. And they wonder what they did wrong. Why are they so stupid? And it's not them at all. It's the environment. They don't belong there. Some kids need to go into a trade school and work with their hands. Some kids need to go and just get right into the workplace, get right into the employment field. Some kids need that. Some kids need an alternative type of education. They go abroad to study or they join the military. Like, college is not the end all be all of how one is educated, and we've made it as such. And that's another reason why the price has gone up and up and up. Because the more we tell people they have to have this, then the colleges can just charge us whatever. It's just like your electricity. It can go up and up and up. You have to pay whatever they charge because you need them. You need your electricity. Unless you're one of those people who has managed to really grab the ultimate dream of living off the grid by yourself. I have that fantasy all the time. But for most of us, we need our electricity so the electric company can charge us whatever they want. We're at their mercy. So no, everyone doesn't need to go to college. If everyone goes to college, it dilutes the value of the college degree. And what the workforce needs is competition. And the idea that everyone has to go to college and should go to college and can't succeed unless they're in college, it removes competition and it dilutes the value. Okay. Greedy banks are taking advantage of students. Hear this one a lot. Big banks, big government, big pharma, big GMO, whatever. There's always some big corporations. There's always some big bad entity that is coming to get us. And we need the government to protect us from those big bad entities, which I find to be laughable. Because if there's any entity that has proven itself to be big and bad throughout history in any nation of any world, it's government. I don't know why we just assume that our founding father, I'm getting distracted here, but whatever. It's my podcast. I'll do what I want. Our founding fathers did not design the Republican government. I don't mean Republican as in party. I mean Republican as in the type of government is. We live in a republic. So they did not design the Republican government to protect people from each other. The government was designed, the Constitution is a negative protector of rights, a protector of negative rights, I guess. That means that it's there to protect your rights. It's not there to give you rights. So it's not there to give you protection from anything. It's just there to ensure that those rights are not infringed. And we already talked about how education is not a right. It's not in the Constitution, and it's not a right anyway. Now there's healthcare, by the way, which we're going to get to. I know. Well, here's the other thing. I know. I can already hear you talking to me. What? I mean, everyone wants to be cared for when they're sick. Don't get me wrong. I would love for it to be free. I did live in, quote, free healthcare. I grew up in it. Nothing's free. Nothing is free. And sometimes you get what you pay for. You know what I'm saying? Do you get it? But the problem with making something free is that what you're saying is you're entitled to someone else's labor. So if big banks are being greedy and you want to make college tuition free, or you want to make student loans free by canceling student loan debt. So the trillions and trillions of dollars that these banks are carrying right now in debt because they've loaned to these students, you want to wipe that out. You're also wiping out the work of the thousands and maybe millions of people over the years that have worked at those banks to bring you this product, the product being the loan. You have an idea of some fat, like Dick Cheney looking brother up in his penthouse high atop Trump Tower, and his pants can't even button. He's so fat and greedy, and he's got, lobster juice dripping out of his mouth as he laughs, his evil maniacal laugh. I've suckered all these people, all these students out of all this money. That's not what the big bank is. The big bank is people like you who get up every day. You get up at the crack of dawn, even when you're exhausted. You get dressed. You get your kids dressed. You get them off to school. You get them breakfast, get them off to school. You drop off the dry cleaning on your way to work. You go to work. You're a teller at the bank. You're a loan officer at the bank. You do the accounting at the bank. You do the security at the bank. You're the janitor at the bank. When you say that those banks have the obligation to erase all of the business transactions that they have made over the years, which I'm talking about student loans. Again, the student loans are business transactions. When you say that they should erase all of these business transactions, what you're saying is you have the right to those people's labor for free. You do not have the right to someone else's labor. If someone gives you health care, they're providing it. Someone has provided the labor for you. Healthcare isn't free. My stepmother's a physician. She went through 8+ years of college, of schooling to get there. Her care is not free. Her labor is not free. So to you, you might think that Dick Cheney banker up there is laughing while he's just raking in all the millions. And surely somebody somewhere is raking in millions. But a lot of labor has gone in to bring you the product of that student loan. And what you're saying is those people do not have the right to be paid for their work that they did for you. Somebody has to pay, and there's no such thing as free. Somebody has to pay. These banks aren't just sitting around with piles of cash that they could give or take freely. These are business transactions. They do this because the business of loaning money is profitable. So that's why they offer it. It costs somebody somewhere something. If you make it, quote, free, if you erase all that debt, then what have these banks done? They've just given away trillions of dollars of their own money for no return. And that's ridiculous. Again, if you think of the bank as Dick Cheney sitting in Trump Tower, yeah, I guess you could feel a little self-satisfied knowing that guy wasn't going to get paid his trillions of dollars. But I'm telling you, that's the wrong way to look at it. That's the wrong guy to be looking at. That's the guy who made all the jobs that you and I go to every day. So we might not like him, and might not like watching that lobster butter drip off his chin. But he was a job creator. And job creation takes asset, and it takes a product that is deliverable and a product that people will buy. That's what banks are doing when they loan money. So that's what you're saying when the banks should just forget about all this. This isn't money that the government has paid, y'all. We're not talking. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders make it sound like these are government loans. No, they're not. The government went and made deals with banks on your behalf to get these loans to you, and the government, which is us, has incurred the cost. Your taxes go up every time these grants go up. Every time a Pell Grant goes up, your taxes have to go up. Oh, that deficit everyone's always complaining about. Oh, by the way, people only complain about the deficit when it's not their guy in the White House, right? Suddenly we remember the deficit. But anyway, the deficit and the debt, everyone's always complaining about that. But no one ever asks why it's getting bigger. Every time the government you want Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders to go do this. But if they go do this and the cost of everything else gets raised because the government has to pay for it. It's not like the government is going and telling the banks, hey, give these kids this money at this interest rate or else. They can't do that, and they're not allowed to do that. What they're saying is give these kids this money at this interest rate and we will cover the rest. So again, I implore you to look at what does it mean for something to be free? If you want to forgive student debt, what exactly are you forgiving? Whose money are you forgiving? How does the government recoup the money that they have spent so that you could get that lower interest rate? The only way to do it is to raise taxes. Effectively, what you're saying is raise my cost of living at the other end. Raise my grandmother's cost of living. Raise my little brother's cost of living, who's not going to be in the workforce for another 15 years. Well, because I think this should be free. No. I know we want to look at the banks as big and bad and all this, but somebody has to pay for it. Do you understand? Somebody, somewhere is paying for it. And what happens is that trickles down. We call that the trickle-down economy. A lot of people don't like that word because I guess this is before my time as an American, but I guess this is Ronald Reagan's theory. And since we're all supposed to hate Ronald Reagan, it's a bad idea. But it only makes sense. It makes sense in every other area of your life. But what happens at the top trickles down to the bottom. It's that way with parenting. It's that way at your church. It's that way at your work. I don't know why we decided it's not that way with the economy. But if greedy old Dick Cheney in Trump Tower has to now eat $2 trillion in loan debt, he's got to restructure the business. Well, what do you do when you have to restructure? You start at the bottom and you cut all the fat at the bottom and then you work your way to the top. That's just how business works. I don't care if you think that's fair. It might not be fair. I don't care if you think that's unjust. That's just how the market responds. That is business. That is reality. I'm a big fan of dealing with the world the way it is and not the way we wish it would be. So now you're asking him to remove thousands of jobs from people on the lower end of the scale because he's had to eat $2 trillion. Like, I'm beating a dead horse here. I get it. You get it too, I hope. Somebody pays for it. It's not free. It's important to remember that the act of taking out a loan from a from a big bank, from gross old Dick Cheney and Trump Tower, or from the government is a business transaction between two people. It is a voluntary business transaction between two people. You have a responsibility on your end to understand how it works, and they do too. They don't actually have a responsibility to educate you. A lot of places do, and we have consumer business bureaus, and we have a lot of apparatuses for protection for consumers. But at the end of the day, this is the agreement that you've entered into. You may complain about Apple's privacy policies or Facebook's privacy policies, but they have it all listed out. It's 400 pages, but it's there for you to read if you want to. You choose to ignore those 400 pages because at the end of the day, you just don't care. The product that they give you is much more valuable than the price you pay. So you're taking that gamble. It's the same way with loans. Is a business transaction. You have to treat it like that. This is a voluntary transaction. No one forces your son to take out $200,000 in loans to get through college. No one forces your son to do that, or your daughter. No one forces you. These are voluntary transactions, and the price might be high, might be higher than you want, might be unfair. Really, it might be unfair, and it might be unjust. But that's the determination you have to make. You can't, it's just patently ridiculous to go into a voluntary business transaction and then after it's done and after you've reaped all the benefits of it, then to come in and say, I don't think this was fair. I think that you just charged too much. I think you should give me my money back, even though I got everything I wanted out of the deal. It's like Meghan and Harry. Are you following the royal family news? I'm a Canadian by birth, so Canada's a Commonwealth country, so we're very connected to British royalty, and I've always had a little bit of an obsession with them. I have some scrapbooks. I used to cut out every picture of Princess Diana and paste it in these scrapbooks that I still have, and I wonder if they're worth any money. I'm going to get those out someday. But Harry and Meghan, as you know, Meghan, the American actress divorcee, and now Harry has abdicated the royal family. He's not in line for the throne, so that's not that big of a deal. But he's left his royal duties. He wants to live a regular life with his wife, or so he says. They have a baby, and he doesn't like the atmosphere and the environment in the UK for him and his wife. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that or what I think personally, because I definitely have opinions because I love celebrity gossip. But that's not the point of this, me bringing them up. One of the things that bothered me about that isn't that he wants to protect his family. I think that's lovely. And I think he should do whatever he needs to do that. But they were more than happy to adorn themselves with royalty when it was paying for their $1 billion wedding. Right? I mean, the British people had a big problem with the price tag of that wedding. That wedding was huge. And she got her, I mean, that's the fairy tale, isn't it? That's the fairy tale. She got it. She got a prince and a castle and the big royal wedding where every celebrity in the whole world came out to see you. Millions of people lining the streets to wave as you drive to the church to marry your Prince Charming. She got that all. And then she got a beautiful house and probably a big fat allowance and all of the trappings of royalty. And for a while they were okay with that. I have no idea when it changed for them, when they realized, this isn't the lifestyle we want, if that happened at all. But what I do know is they received all the benefits of the title of royalty and then decided to renege on their end of the deal. Then they decided, after they enjoyed all those benefits, that they don't want to be a part of this. And that's the same thing with this business transaction of a loan and a recipient of a loan. You can't take the loan and say, well, great, this loan is helping me get through 4 years of school so I can get this degree. And then you get the degree and you're like, oh, you know what? That loan seemed to cost a little too much. It doesn't seem fair. I'm not going to honor that. I'm not going to honor the deal we made because it's just not fair. Would you want someone to do that to you? Again, you have to look at this as people. There are people involved here. We get the numbers involved. We get the concepts involved. And we never think about the people involved. A big bank isn't one guy. A big bank is a bunch of people, hundreds, thousands, millions of people doing little jobs every day to bring you a product that you sought out. If you cannot afford to go to college without a big loan, then you cannot afford to go to college. And that's that. Does it suck? Yeah. My husband and I have a very a small endowment fund that we started back in Gary, Indiana. I mean, it's tiny. It's in the thousands, but we hope to grow it. And we hope to grow it to be able to provide scholarships for kids from that area to pay for college. So I do wish that such a thing wasn't out of reach. But again, just to go back to this word that means so much to me, value. There is value in having to work for something. I paid my own way through college. And I got student loans. And I got some scholarships. And then I worked while I was in school. And I got out of there in 4 years. Like, I didn't waste my time and add a fifth or a sixth year. Like, I knew I had 4 years. I knew that I could scrape by for 4 years, and that's it. And that's what I did. And I valued the degree. I valued the experience of college because I had to work for it. I don't know what this is, this modern idea we have that people shouldn't be working for the things they want. That's crazy. That robs any accomplishment of any satisfaction, of any value. This is probably a theme in every podcast that I've done on this show so far. I talked about men and women. Should women propose to men? And that was one of the things I said. Men have to work for the value of your love. They had to work for it. So something has value when you work for it. So I don't get this idea that everyone's supposed to just have this easy time and go to college. And sometimes those doors close, but then some other door opens that we never would have chosen. The military. How many people are in the military that went in there because they wanted to pay for school and then stayed because they loved it? How many people couldn't afford to college and so instead went into the workplace and ended up founding a business? I met a kid who my daughter takes surf camps in the summer. It's like a week-long camp. You're just at the beach every day. You learn how to surf. And there's a kid. He started out as a teenager at this camp, and he had a camera. His mom bought him a really nice camera for a birthday or something. He's about 15, and he found some waterproof stuff, like some casing and stuff that you can put around the camera. And he went to the lady that runs the surf camp and he said, "Can I take pictures of your kids while they're in the water? I'll get in the water with them and I'll just take pictures all day. And then at the end of the week of camp, I'll compile a CD of all the pictures that I took and I'll sell it to the parents for like $45-$50 a pop or whatever." And she was like, "Yeah, great. As long as I can use the pictures on my website, perfect. Great deal." That kid worked his way through years of camp. He's an adult now. I don't think he's still I don't think he went to college at all, because by the time he got from 15 to 19, he was making so much money doing what he was doing. There was no need for it. And he can always go back. If he needs education, he can always go back. Sometimes we're denying people their blessings because we want to give them everything. And I know that you feel that way because you feel like it's the right thing to do, but it's not. It's actually not the right thing to do to make everyone's life easier. It's not the right thing to do to make everyone's life harder. It's certainly not. But it's actually not the right thing to do to remove every single obstacle for every single person. And that, again, is another point that can just go across the board, from parenting to relationships to the workplace to your team. My daughter starts softball this week. She's got to go to practice tonight, 7 to 9. She's 12. She doesn't want to be on the field at 9 o'clock at night, freezing her butt off. Well, freezing for Orange County. We're thin-blooded here. So if it's 60, it's freezing. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to do that. She just wants to play in the game, hit the ball, get the glory. But there's an effort that has to be made in order to have that privilege. There's value in hitting the home run, but the obstacle is going to practice 4 times a week. So there's no reason to think that removing student loans is actually forgiving student loans is actually good for students and for our forward progress. And then, of course, this brings us to the question that father had who confronted Elizabeth Warren now last week, I think, as I'm recording today. But he asked her at one of her campaign events, hey, does your plan include guys like me who have already paid off the student debt? What about that? And she said no. Well, yeah, what happens to those people? You want to talk about fair? It's not fair that college is so expensive. It's not fair that everyone can't go if they want to go. It's not fair this. It's not fair that. You want to talk about fair? How fair is it that this guy maybe ate ramen for 4 years? Maybe he sold his house. You don't know what sacrifices he made, but we all know what sacrifices we have made to take out loans or to afford something, right? So let's not begrudge this guy that quality. I'm going to assume that he made some sacrifices to pay off the loans for his daughter, which he didn't need to do as a parent. Those loans are her loans, but you do a lot for your kids. So he made those sacrifices. So what about him? He's worked hard. What if he's just a mechanic? I don't know anything about that guy. I'm not going to assume that he's Dick Cheney in Trump Tower. I'm going to assume that he's the guy who cleans the trash in Trump Tower. What about him? What's fair for him? Does he get a refund? How come is it, well, if you just happen to pay your loans before November 2020, you're out of luck? You want to talk about fair? You want to talk about just? That's not fair. That's not just. What about the people who have already worked? By the way, have you asked yourself? I don't know if you're a Warren fan or a Bernie Sanders fan. Have you asked yourself what's going to happen to student loans after all of the student debt is forgiven? Like, I haven't seen a plan from either one of them to just end the loan process and to make university completely free. They've both talked about it, but there's no plan. There's no technical plan on the table. That's the other thing. A lot of these candidates, so I've been in politics for a decade now. What your candidates, or not just your candidates, your politicians, no matter the party. Trust me on this one. Trust me, people. I have been on the inside. I have peeked behind the veil. Every politician says one thing and means another. It's up to you to dig into what they're saying. It's up to you to actually go look at their proposals, to actually go look at their budgets. You have no idea. These people count on you not being curious. They count on it, and most of the time they can. So if you dig in, they don't have real solid plans for how that'll work. It'll just be like, well, we'll figure it out. We've paid for this. We've paid for that. We'll figure out how to pay for this too. So does the student loan system just end? I mean, to just forgive all student debt, but then continue the process of loaning to students. Is this a big cycle? Do we go, what bank's going to be in the loan business after that? Then who can give loans? Only the government. Well, how's the government going to fund the loans? They got to raise your taxes. I pay a lot in taxes. I think in California, it's almost criminal. It is criminal. I think we're up to 60%. I mean, the founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves. I can't even believe I'm saying that number and I'm still standing here in California. It's ridiculous. But this is where we're at. I'd leave if I could. I can't leave yet. And you know what? It's not time to leave. Because God has not said to leave, which is sort of annoying, but... Oh, sorry, God. Yeah, I was talking about you, but I was only saying nice things. I was only saying nice things, Lord. I love it here. Thank you for setting my feet here. Wherever you set my feet, I'll belong. Okay, sidebar. All right, let's get to the end of this. Let's get to the end. Education has value, so spend your time and money wisely. If you can't afford a Porsche... do not go buy a Porsche. That's common sense, is it not? I know people do it anyway, but you talk about those people, don't you? You make fun of those people at parties. If you can't afford a 5-bedroom house in San Diego right on the shore, then you can't live in a 5-bedroom house in San Diego right on the shore. You can't afford it. So it's ridiculous to try to get it and then go get that house and then demand that someone else pay the loan you took out to get that house because it was too expensive. That's what college is. Again, because I can already hear some of you saying, but I'll just hearken back to what I said in the beginning. Some of you are saying, but education is really important and we need to invest in it, and it's a right. If education is a right, then yeah, I guess it must be provided. Rights aren't provided. I alluded to this earlier and I got my meaning jumbled a little bit, but I'll just reiterate, rights aren't provided, rights are protected. There's a reason why the Constitution says that these are God-given rights. That's not an accident that that's in there. That's not religious fervor. That is the idea that that no man can give you anything, and therefore no man can take anything away from you. That there is a higher creator who has endowed you with these rights, and therefore no man has authority over that creator. So no man can take that from you. The government's job is to remind people, anybody who would try to take that from you, that that is not allowed. So if you believe education is a right, then it's not the same as having that house on the shore. But I don't believe education is a right. In fact, I know it's not a right. And I know that sounds mean to some people because it sounds nice to say education is a right. That sounds nice. Healthcare is a right. That sounds nice. Who's against education? Who's against healthcare? But this is just listen to yourself. And so I want you to listen to what you're saying when you say that. If it's a right, then you've got the right to someone else's labor for free. And I know you don't feel like anyone has the right to your labor without compensation. Somehow we stop dealing in terms of people when we get these big ideas and we only see numbers or memes, caricatures of the type of person we think we don't like. Education has value, so spend your time and money wisely. You only have so many dollars. You only have, you only have so far to stretch with your budget. So don't go get a degree in feminist studies in basket weaving. Do you know what I mean? That has no value. There's no value to that degree. It might be fun, but there are certain degrees that you get that are only, the only thing you can do with those degrees is teach those degrees. I love philosophy. I'm a huge fan of philosophy. I can't believe that there are people still training for degrees in philosophy, which is a very worthy area to be studied. But you only get a degree in philosophy if you're going to teach philosophy. You're not going to get hired by the philosophy cafeteria. You're not, there's just not, philosophy isn't like McDonald's. It's not like food service. It's not like being a doctor. It's a very specific application. And we have so many, going through this process with my son and watching and looking at all the different degrees that are available, it is amazing. I'm like, who is paying for these things? There's no way I'm going to pay for a degree in women's studies. What does that even mean? What are you going to do with a degree in women's studies? You're going to go teach other people women's studies because there's no women's studies product to make when you graduate college. Look, I love Black people. I love my people. I love my community. But what the hell are you going to do with a degree in African American studies unless you're going to get into A, the grievance industry, or B, teaching? Your degree has value. This is the other thing that universities do. See, this is how you know it's a product. There's absolutely no real world application for for feminist studies, for women's studies, there's no real world application. A few of those people might find elite jobs in activist groups or in colleges. But for the day to day, you're not like getting your day to day income with those degrees. Why do colleges offer those if they know they're dead ends? Because they know you're going to buy it. They're just responding to the market. So they dilute the value of their own degrees by doing that stuff. If you're going to pay for college, if you're going to take out loans, then get a degree that's going to have a return on it. That only makes sense. And you can study women's studies. You can study feminist studies or African American studies or non-binary, transgender, African American, LGBT, women's studies on the moon. You can do all that. You can do whatever you want. You can do it on your own time. Or you can add those as a minor. But don't go get a useless degree, pay $200,000 for it and get $100,000 in loans and then come to me and tell me I'm supposed to pay your loan because you can't get a job with your dumbass degree. Parents, y'all got to stop raising these kids with the idea that they're supposed to go out there and change the world. Just raise your kids to go out there and be productive. There's something more world changing than that. But these kids who grow up in this atmosphere that is their one thing in life to go change the world, and it's the only thing they can do. Those are the people that become useless human beings. Because nobody with sense thinks they alone can change the world. Nobody with good sense. There have been one or two people. Even you want. I can hear some of y'all saying right now, Martin Luther King changed the world, not by himself. Not by himself. So I guarantee you that he wasn't a kid and was like, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to change the world. He was probably like, I want to have a wife. I want to have kids. I want to, and then circumstances drove him to be a society changer. Anyone who says that they're going to school so they can change the world is an idiot. You better change that person's mind. I'd be scared of somebody who said that. I don't want you to change the world. We'll cross every bridge when we get there. It's a little bit self-important to think that the only reason for your education is to change the world. Those are the dangerous people. Those are the people that go for these degrees that really have no real world value. So don't get your education because you want to change the world. Get your education because you want to change yourself. There's a great point in, I haven't read this book, but I'm fascinated by Dr. Jordan Peterson. I'm fascinated by all the hatred for him. I mean, the man's a scientist. He's just a scientist, honest to God. It's no wonder he just had a mental breakdown. The way people talk about him, and it's like when you read his stuff, you're like, oh man, he's literally just a scientist. And he's just giving data, but it's the data that people don't like. So it gets labeled as some way, but he's got this his book 12 Rules for Life, but one of the rules is make your bed. And I've heard him talk about this often. His idea is you make your bed, you tidy the world around you, fix the world around you, and then that will set a base for you to be able to go out and challenge these other things that are wrong with the world. But you've got to fix what's wrong around you first. Get your own house in order first, and then you're more equipped, better able, have more experience to go help what's wrong with the world. And a lot of people will say, yeah, but what about the things that you have no control over? You have control over your room, but like climate change is going to kill us in 12 years, or the banking system's collapsing, or whatever your Armageddon, whatever your version of Armageddon is, it's coming. People can't control those things. We've got to go out and fight them. And Jordan Peterson's thing is, why would I trust you with saving the world and you can't even make your own friggin' bed in the morning? Do you know what I mean? If you can't get your own house in order, why would I trust you with getting the world in order? You should not be getting an education to change the world. You should be getting an education to change yourself. The world will change accordingly. That's it. I've made my case. This is why I think forgiving student debt is a bad idea. It's not going to work. It's going to make things worse for us. Somebody's going to pay the price. That somebody will be you and me. It will never be the elites, as much as you wish. It won't be. So I would rather look at it as a business transaction between two entities, and you decide if the value is worth the money, if the return on your investment is going to be worth the risk. That's life, people. And that's the best lesson you can teach your kids. If you if you have a response to this, if you have an opinion that's different or the same as mine, go ahead and contact me on Twitter. You can go look at my Twitter page. I have my email, I think, in my profile, which is kiradavis422@gmail.com. And then, of course, you can just use that and email me your thoughts. I hear from a lot of you guys. I read them all. I'm sorry if I don't respond to everyone, but I get a lot these days, which makes me happy. But I'm still doing the mom thing, so I don't have a lot of time. But I'll do my best to get back to you. And if it's a good enough and interesting enough response, I will read it on the air and I'll respond to it. I just love to hear thoughtfulness. So tell me what you think on this. Before I go, I know this podcast is lasting a little longer than usual. I'm feeling long-winded today. I apologize for that. But I'm recording this 2 days after the tragedy of the helicopter accident that killed Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna and 7 other people right here in Orange County. And, they're from Orange County. I don't think he was in Orange County when he crashed. I think they were in LA County, but they're going to a basketball game. I mean, I don't have to rehash it. You all know. We're all going to remember where we were when we heard Kobe Bryant died. I was in church and I got a text from my friend And she was like, what? Kobe Bryant's dead? And everybody must have been getting the same text at the same time. I go to a big church. It's about 1,000 people in the sanctuary at that time. And the pastor had just started his sermon. And at the same time, everybody's head like dropped to their phones. And this murmur just like started rippling out in waves over the whole sanctuary. And you could see the pastor react to it. Because obviously everyone was doing the same thing at the same time. But he has no way of knowing what it was. And thank God, because you wouldn't want him to stop that sermon right in the middle of it. But it was so eerie and weird. And eventually everyone pulled it together. But yeah, for us here in Orange County, especially, I feel like, well, I don't want to take anything away from like LA fans or any fans. Everyone is devastated by this. LA fans are a certain breed of people. And LA Lakers are family to people. So there's a lot of people genuinely mourning Kobe, genuinely mourning him. In Orange County, it's so weird though, because our county is so small. It acts like it's almost like a small town, because in this part of the world, everything's developed. So you're just really going from, there's not many demarcations. You're just really going from town to town to town, and your streets are just the border. In that respect, I think it makes us all a lot closer than people would think. And that 6 degrees of separation thing is like alive and well here in Orange County. It's crazy. It's crazy. But somehow everybody is connected to each other. And Kobe Bryant was no different. You know, everyone around here, because he lived in Newport Beach. That's why he had the helicopter. And I feel bad now because the joke around here is like, oh, you want to be friends with Kobe so that you can fly over the LA traffic. How do I meet Kobe so I can be his friend? It's not funny anymore. But it's such a tight knit area. Everyone's got a connection to the family in some way, especially if you have school age kids. Like my kids you'd be shocked to know some of the people my kids go to school with. I won't bust everybody out. I don't want everyone to know where these people live, but it's not uncommon to go to school with the children of celebrities around here. It really isn't. And everyone's got a story of how they were connected to someone on that helicopter. My husband's boss was friends with the pilot. My daughter's friend was friends with one of the girls that went. And I'm like, everybody has a story like that around here. That's what I'm trying to say. Everyone's so connected. Everyone has a story, and it's been devastating. My daughter was saying in school yesterday, they spent a lot of the day doing tributes to Kobe. A lot of kids who play sports have played with Kobe's daughter. And it's a tragedy beyond measure. It's a tragedy because he is a public figure, and in that way, public figures become sort of a unifier for all of us. And that's why it feels so much more devastating to lose a public figure like that than it would. I know sometimes on Twitter, people are like, oh, you don't even know the names of the guys that crashed in Afghanistan. It's like, it's not that we don't value that loss any less. It's not like we value that loss any less. But when a public figure like Kobe is taken from us, it reminds us at one time of our mortality. It reminds us of our shared humanity and our shared interests. It just feels like a little, in that respect, a little bit of the light goes out of the world, you know? Here's a unifier. I mean, he was just a basketball player. I'm sure he didn't mean to be a unifier. He was just doing his job. He's a great basketball player, but in the process became a great unifier because everybody loves sports. Everybody loves to be entertained. So I guess I just wanted to end with a word of sympathy and condolences for the families of the people who lost their lives on that chopper. I mean, one of the families, it was a mom, dad, and their daughter. They have other kids at home. You know, overnight, just wake up with no parents. Vanessa Bryant's kids don't have a dad, but one of these other kids, they don't have a mom or a dad or a sister today. So just a huge, huge tragedy. And it's hard not to feel moved by it as a parent. And it's hard not to feel for Vanessa Bryant, who has a small baby. And of course, 3 other girls. And my heart, I'm like you. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to drag this on. I just wanted to offer my condolences to the Bryant family and to the families of those who were lost on that flight. And I just wanted us all to take a moment to remind ourselves that as scary as it is to think about, we're not promised tomorrow. We don't get to choose our time. We just get to choose how to use it. So I hope you use your time and your finances wisely. And I will talk to you next week. And until then, don't forget, every once in a while, just stop and listen to yourself. Bye.